All right, midweek here at Colorado football practice, and our last media availability of the week here on Wednesday, and good one today. You know, we got three good press conferences. Andre Hart, the linebackers coach, as well as Levante Bentley, the linebacker, and Philip Houston, offensive tackle that we haven't talked to yet. So, pretty good, group of interviews today, and these guys are ready. They're fired up for Texas Tech.
Yeah, and even driving in to today's practice was kind of fun. I think the first snow of the year in Colorado is always fun, and then you get really annoyed with it when it gets to January and February. But it's pretty out there right now. But
I just hope it doesn't interrupt any of our travel plans this week. That's all I care about.
Yeah, it sounds like the weather's going to hold off enough where I don't think we're going to have any issues there. It's not like it was leading up to that UCF game when you're just Googling hurricane watches every day. But no, I took away that Taj Brooks is a guy that they respect a whole lot, but they have faced really talented backs already this year, and so when you look at this Texas Tech team, we'll get deeper into that, but I don't know if it's a great matchup for them. Now they're coming off a big win, and so that part of it, I feel like there's a lot of momentum within that program, but I don't know if you felt this around here, but kind of the feeling the last couple of days with this program is kind of a quiet confidence, which is not really the reputation of Colorado football under Coach Prime, but I sense that there's a seriousness with this team, and they realize what they have in front of them. And it's, from an analytical standpoint, exactly what you want to see from a team, and emotionally as well, with how they're approaching this coming off the bye week.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I don't necessarily feel like they haven't said this, but like I've always just kind of felt like once they got that sixth win, it was almost like a sigh of relief. Okay, we got bowl eligibility out of the way, and then from here, because there's so much time left, there's a lot more we can go for. And I do feel that same thing. Like we're here now. We've got that out of the way. Let's go for as much as we can get. And I think there is that quiet confidence. And as far as Taj Brooks, I mean, he was compared quite a bit to DJ Giddens from Kansas State by Andre Hart and also Levante Bentley. Andre Hart also said he kind of reminds him of Le'Veon Bell, and so it's definitely going to be a challenge. I mean, it'll be interesting this week because Taj Brooks is on pace potentially this week to become Texas Tech's all-time leading rusher, needs 121 yards. The Buffs would like to prevent him from getting that against them.
And you look at the linebacker play here, and that's what makes you feel so much more confident about this team. Last year, Bentley came on as the season went along, but you didn't have that duo with a Hill Green that has been so solid this year, and so you just feel so much better about Colorado going into these type of matchups now than obviously a year ago.
Yeah, both those guys are hard hitters, and so it's going to be an interesting matchup, with those guys against Taj Brooks. Anything else defensive-wise? I mean, Andre Hart's always good to talk to. He gives us a lot of insight, and that group certainly is playing better, to your point, as a group than they were a year ago. But any takeaways defensively?
Well, Coach Hart talked about it being RPO-heavy, a tempo team. They thought they were going to see a little bit more tempo out of some teams they played this year, and didn't really see that on Saturday when they got out there. So that's going to be a challenge for them defensively. With Levante Bentley, I just appreciate guys that have handled business the right way. Yeah. And he's one of those young men that when adversity has struck during his time here, he stepped up to that challenge and gotten better every time. Yeah. I was looking at the stats this morning, and I was shocked that he's only got 29 tackles this year, because it's kind of like I said after the Cincinnati game, the adjusted rushing average was 3.4 yards, but the impact was so much greater than what that stat would tell you. And I feel the same way about Levante Bentley. That he has been very impactful on this defense. Yeah. He's had a couple fumble recoveries, a forced fumble, a couple sacks. His stats don't jump off the page, but his impact has.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think part of that, too, with the stats being a little bit down from last year, is that the defensive line's playing better, so they're stealing some of those tackles. And you've got somebody next to you that's taking those tackles. Nakai Hill-Green is taking a lot of those tackles that Levante Bentley might have gotten last year. And so I'll take the duo as opposed to Levante, what his numbers were last year. Philip Houston talked to us today. He's done a great job. I mean, was not in the starting lineup at the start of the year. I believe he was CU's highest graded lineman against Cincinnati, one of the highest grades of the season that a lineman's had on PFF. So he's really come along and been kind of a staple at right tackle.
We can debate PFF and how much of a grain of salt you want to take with all that, but
it's a measuring stick. Yeah.
But of those guys that have started games this year, he actually has the best grade right now. It has been a progression for him, though. Yeah. That first game, he had 3 penalties against Colorado State. It was kind of rough, but he's only had one penalty in the last 4 games.
Yeah.
So he's settled in, and we heard him talk to us today about the confidence is building, and you can really see that with his play out there. He doesn't get off the bus like a Jordan Seaton and stand out in that physical standpoint, but he's become a much better technician on that offensive line. And I think back to the first couple games that he was starting, I put out that post on X/Twitter pregame and had people freaking out, but he's proven to be a very solid player. And I think you go back to the first month of the season, Brian, the biggest question on this team was they got to solidify that right tackle role.
Right.
Based on the last couple games, they're trending in that direction.
Yeah, he's doing a really good job with that. Came from FIU where he played for Mike McIntyre, and was asked a little bit about that. And he goes, "I think Mac was a little bit mad that I left, but no, I didn't talk to him about Colorado." So couldn't tell exactly how he feels about Mac, but he certainly he's glad to be here. Let's just put it that way, and he's doing a nice job. And that offensive line is really coming together. I mean, two weeks in a row they've allowed just 1 sack. I look at this line. Last year it was at least 3 sacks every single game. This year that's 5 times in 8 games now they've given up 2 or less, and the last 2. So they're really coming along. And now you got a Texas Tech team that is last in the conference in sacks, and so there's an opportunity here to keep it going.
Yeah, no, that continuity has been impressive, especially given the fact they have been continuing to rotate guys into those guard spots. And it kind of goes to the challenge when you're going to build through the portal. O-line might be the toughest from a cohesive standpoint, and to see those guys kind of starting to gel. I thought for a while there it was 2 steps forward, 1 step back, and now you're starting to see a little bit more consistency in terms of them being able to continue to make strides where they don't, as you and Shedeur were joking about, that they don't have then that next game where things fall apart. And so that's where we thought the floor had been risen so much. And now, do we see the ceiling get raised here the final month? I would think with guys like Jordan Seaton that are, just now kind of coming into their own, the possibility is there for that. And Hank Zielinskis, I think he's going to get some of those communication issues fixed with Shedeur. And if you can hit your stride this final 4 weeks against not really all that intimidating of opponents, then I think you have to really like what that unit has produced this year.
One last thing. I can't remember if we talked about this yesterday or not, but Tyler Brown practicing a defensive tackle. We've seen more of that. He's in the blue jersey now, kind of going both ways. Andre Hart said, I'd love to have him stay on my side. Philip Houston said, man, he might be the strongest guy on the team. And so every time I line up, it's like, oh, boy, I got to block the strongest guy on the team. It'll be interesting to see what Tyler Brown's role is this week.
Yeah, no, if you're going to pick a guy from offensive line to do that, like we were talking yesterday about just needing to bolster a little bit of that interior defensive line depth, then that's probably the choice there. I want to see Khalil Benson out there full-time, honestly, going forward. I've really liked his mentality, and he kind of created a little bit of that change in how they were going to approach this thing in terms of protecting Shedeur. And you've got Mayers who's come along, and and Kareem Harden has been solid there. So you've got 3 guards you can plug in there and rotate. And Tyler Brown maybe will have an impact on defense. I don't know. It's going to be fun to watch. Every person that has been asked about Tyler Brown since he's been here has just raved about his strength. And we've heard from many people that this might be the strongest guy that I've been around in terms of being a football player. So, on the D-line, sometimes all you need to do is take on a couple blockers, and if you're the strongest guy on the team, you would think that would be a skill set you would possess. Right,
and frankly, one of the nicest guys on the team, and one of the greatest people in my times being able to talk to him, just an awesome human being. But Adam and I are going to be back later on this week for a game preview.